Really
okay.
appreciate the help. Really appreciate
It's a step, and I know Sue does not want you to break your hip. So.
Yeah, because I'm going to need that walker in a couple
help.
of hours.
Yay!
Hey! That should go on Facebook.
I'm stuck.
Hit pause for the next hour for a minute. See, we can play this all day, too.
Yeah.
Isn't it fun to be able to laugh and enjoy yourselves and not worry about all the nonsense out there? Good time to be able to give each other a little good-natured ribbing and love each other no matter what. Or at least, yeah, I'm on.
He's always
I'm on. I'm always on.
That's right.
Are we good back there, or do I need to go to this?
We're good.
Okay, cool.
Now we're good.
All right. So, again, we are in the middle of a wonderful series called The Road Less Traveled, talking about the footsteps of the Christian life. Last couple of weeks, we started the journey talking about what it means just to follow and to build some things. So we're in our third week talking about, and wow, I didn't change that title on this one, did I? It's actually called Storms and Stones. So ignore the title on the top of your little sheet there. It's what happens when you're trying to do a series on faith and doing stuff for the leadership thing, plus doing a final paper for your class all at the same time. So, and being sick for 2 years. I know you guys forget it. So.
I don't think you're busy enough, Scott.
Yeah, I should probably add one with and then I don't even want to go there. Everett and I both kind of share that in common. Today we're talking about storms and stones, and the issue of the idea is that no matter which road you travel, whether it's the road less traveled, meaning that one that we follow as we walk down the road of Christian life, or the road that everybody else seems to want to travel, there's always going to be storms. There's always going to be stuff in the way. And the question is, how do we recognize it? What do we do about it? How do we deal with it? And there are some interesting things, because when the world looks at it, the world looks at these things and they go into panic mode, right? And we see this because if anybody here is on Facebook, we watch how they go to panic mode, right? Whether you're on one side of this political nightmare or the other, it really doesn't matter. If you just get on Facebook for more than 2.5 seconds, you will probably see, and I mean, we laugh because it's a reality. You get on it for about 2.5 seconds, you're already done with it, because all you get is just newsfeed after newsfeed after newsfeed of Trump did this or protesters did that, and you just sit there and shake your head the whole time. Just going, wow, you guys are really just panicking over stuff that is really, not very consequential. But of course, anytime a storm comes up, whether it's just a little squall or even just a nice soft gentle thing that comes and goes, we all see, the world around us sees that as a time to panic. But the Christian life says, well, we all know that storm's going to happen. We all know there's going to be obstacles. How do we deal with that? So as we go through it, I thought we'd take just a moment to review a little bit about what the last few weeks were. First of all, there it is. First of all, looking at the road, we have to recognize 3 things so far, right? The first thing is the road calls us to, first of all, step out. Okay? What does that mean? Sooner or later, we're all going to have this interesting conversation, and it's usually a multiple conversations with this strange guy by the name of Jesus. He's going to, appear somewhere in the road of our life, and he's just going to kind of, he's not a real obtrusive guy. He doesn't just come up and start beating you over the head with a Bible or a baseball bat or anything like that. But he's one of those guys that as you're walking along, you're like, okay, what is this guy all about? I know the weird guy back there juggling bowling pins in the middle of the freeway. That's odd. This guy, though, there's something different about him. The Christian life calls us to really step out. And Jesus calls us, he takes us to this place where there's these forks in the road and says, look, if you want something better than what you got over here, try stepping onto this path. just step out onto it. And that's the first thing as we're told to do, is we're called to step out. And second is to follow the guy who's saying, you know don't have to do this by yourself. Follow Jesus. That's where the road is calling us. Step out, follow Jesus. Now it sounds simplistic, but there's nothing simplistic about it. We all know what it's like to follow people, right? And it's not always so easy. To follow somebody, you got to have some trust in them. You have to believe that they know where they're going. Otherwise, you don't follow them so easily, right? It's not as simple as it sounds, but it's something that he calls us to do. And as we begin that journey, as we begin to follow Jesus, we're called to build faith. Because faith is really the fuel that we'll use along the journey, on this road less traveled. On this road we call life, as we're going down, the faith that Christ puts within us is really the fuel that helps us to continue to go down. Now there's times where we're going to get stuck and we probably get caught in a roundabout. If you've ever seen the movie National Lampoon's European Vacation, Clark Griswold for 8 hours there. That kids, Big Bad Parliament. Big Bad Parliament. 8 hours later, I can't get out of this thing. We recognize that sometimes we get caught in the roundabouts. We get stuck in the eddies and the currents of life. But the reality is, we get out of those as we build faith. Now the problem is that for a lot of people, they think that following Jesus is all about ease. If I follow Jesus, we get some really cool stuff, right? We get eternal life. We recognize, that I'm never going to be by myself again. There's going to be some really great benefits. At the end of the road, whatever heaven looks like, I get to be in it with him and with a whole bunch of other people. It's going to be a great thing, right? So we think about the idea of, wow, that's wonderful. And our brain says that's the end of the journey. So I'm really almost there, and so the rest of this journey should be cake. But the problem is as we're building faith, guess what? We have to deal with some things along the way. And there are a lot of people out there, and I'm sure they have really good intentions, but I'd like to tell you that if you are going through life and you bump into obstacles, if you are walking this journey and you hit some storms, you're doing something wrong. There's something wrong with you. There's something wrong. You don't have enough faith. You're not. Well, guess what? Jesus never said it was going to be an easy journey. In fact, thinking about him and his own journey, he starts out, he's calling his disciples. He's out healing the sick and doing all sorts of wonderful stuff. He's in the synagogues. He's up on mountaintops. He's preaching to thousands of people, feeding them with 2 stupid little fish and some loaves. And people are like, oh, this is amazing. But Jesus knew it's going to get harder, right? Because guess what? As he starts calling us to build our faith, then the real work begins. Because building faith means we have to do some things. And it takes some time and it takes some work. And anybody who believes that road is going to be easy, well, I'll be honest with you, you're in for a rude awakening. And I've been there a few times. More than my share of times. And I have no doubt I'm going to have a lot of those left to go. God willing. The problem is that along this road that we're there are things that are going to come up. To build faith, it's kind of like building muscle. When I was in high school, I had to figure out how to deal with my anger issues. Yes, I'm still dealing with that, so, as you are all aware of it, and I thank you for that. But let's just say that my anger issues were far, far more volatile back then. I had to figure out how to deal with that. So one of the ways I did that was to do weightlifting. And in high school, I got to a place where I figured out if I channel all the anger and all the rage and all the frustration I had and all the stuff that was going on into this, I could do some great stuff. And I started to build muscle. The problem with building muscle is most people want to go and they want to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but they only want to lift things that are about this heavy. Right? Well, this is great. And if I was very, 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 very weak, just coming off of the bed, this might be something. This might build some resistance in my muscles. The problem is at 45 years of age and in fairly decent shape, this doesn't really do anything. I got that one back. You see, there's going to be some resistance. To build anything, build faith, build houses, build highways, build muscle, there's going to be some resistance. Without it, you can't build anything. When you think about the amazing ability we have to travel from one state to another very easily, right? We have a thing called the interstate system. Well, that didn't magically appear. It wasn't like, Eisenhower one day sat down and says, I think we need that. And he just kind of used his brain and went, oh, there it is. Yep. All right. And everybody went, oh, I can go from here to here and it's just going to be. No, it took a lot of work, right? They had to build these big roads and they had to figure out how to go over all sorts of obstacles like rivers and hills and mountains and sometimes through mountains. It took a while to do that. When I was building my muscles, I realized that if I wanted to get stronger, I had to put on more weight. And I don't mean more weight, I mean more weight. And as I did that, the more weight I put on, the longer I did it, and the more often I worked at it, the stronger my muscles got. And that's how you build some resistance. That's how we build faith. Faith doesn't just come because one day we say, I'm going to follow Jesus and it's all going to be roses and red wine. It's not going to work that way. You're going to have to build faith through some resistance. We see that, we recognize that. We're going to look into chapter 8, verses 22 through 25, where we see some of this resistance happening. You see, Jesus is with his disciples, and he's trying to explain to them, guys, I know that you're really enjoying all of this, and I know it's really exciting because I called you specifically. He's getting followed by thousands of people, and he's actually going to have to get into a boat to go to another side, and hopefully leave these crowds back here so that he can go see other people, and so this message can continue to work. And he's getting in this boat with all of his best friends, the guys he's called, and he's trying to explain to them along the journey that you understand, if you're following me, if you're coming with me, you're gonna end up getting some resistance. Right now it looks really nice and you're getting some popularity and people are really excited about that. But guess what? The message is starting to shift. Because it's not just about following me, it's also about follow me. Let go of the old garbage and follow me. At that point in history, what was going on? The Romans basically controlled the world. And those in Israel wanted Israel back. But they didn't just want Israel back. They wanted Israel back. Make Israel. See, that's what some of those guys, zealots, were probably doing back there. They were having campaigns saying, make Israel great. I can just see that right now. Nice hats going along, talking about make Israel great. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but the problem is everybody thought when the Messiah came, when Jesus came, he was going to be the knight on a white horse, and he was just going to charge in, and not only was he going to take care of the Romans, but he was going to put them back at the top of the food chain. And the problem was, Jesus says, no, you don't get it. That isn't what it's all about. If you're going to follow me, my path is way different. See, the path I'm laying out for you is one that says, stop worrying about what the pecking order is, because there is no pecking order. I don't care about all this other stuff. What I care about is you learning how to love one another and to love the guys who are persecuting you. You want me to do what? I want you to. It's going to be a rough road. So as Jesus is working with his disciples, he's starting to build this faith, and he's starting to get to them, and they're kind of trying to figure this whole thing out because, they're riding this great wave of popularity, and now Jesus is moving into this time of, that's going to wane, and you're not going to like the rest of this journey. It's going to be kind of hard. So Jesus gets into this boat with his disciples and says, all right, we're gonna do some stuff here. We're going to get into a boat. Starting at chapter 8, verse 20, actually 23. I'm in the wrong, see?
22.
Yeah, 22. 22. One day, Jesus said to his disciples, let's go over to the other side of the lake. So they got into the boat and they set out. And as they sailed, he fell asleep. Well, Jesus is kind of tired, so who wouldn't? He falls asleep. Now, by the time a squall came down upon the lake, so that the boat was being swamped. You guys know what that means, right? It's rocking back and forth. Yeah. Waves are coming up. Water's rushing in. The wind, storm. It's nasty. They're scared. The boat was being swamped, and they were in great danger. Disciples went and woke him, saying, Master, Master, we're going to drown. He got up and rebuked the wind and the raging waters, and the storm subsided, and all was calm. Where is your faith? He asked his disciples. In fear and amazement, they asked one another, who is this? He commands even the winds and the water, and they obey him. You see, the problem about the road is as we're walking and as we're following Christ, he's going to lead us into some interesting places. And we have to recognize that. We have to recognize a few things, some realities, and recognize some danger signs along this road. One of the danger signs is this: change happens. You know, in life, when we think about it as we're growing up, we all see change, right? And we recognize it as being a good thing. So why is it so hard as we're walking along, especially in our adult lives, to recognize that change is a good thing? I mean, when our kids are young and they start learning how to drive, for the most part, other than we're kind of afraid of seeing what our next insurance payment's going to cost, it's a good thing, right? We're excited about this change. They're becoming independent. They can go get milk and pick up their siblings, and I can do the things I want to do. Gotta like that part, right? As they get older and they get ready to go to college, we're kind of, or move out, we're kind of excited. They're becoming independent. They're doing things. We see these changes and we're like, yes, it's wonderful. But as we get older, we start struggling with that change, right? Because I can tell you right now, Barbara and I, and Sue and Emery and I have talked a little bit about this, because Barbara and I are entering this new phase of our life, and this change is kind of difficult. Our youngest, Victoria, will be graduating this year, and she'll be going off to college, and Katrina's graduated from college, and she's moving out. Our son lives on his own, and he's a security guard. And by the way, he told us that getting shot is not fun, because he learned what it felt like to take a slug in a flak jacket. First of all, I had a slight panic attack. I realized somebody pointed a gun at my kid.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those things. But you know, this change, it's necessary and it's wonderful, and it scares the crud out of me. We just spent 20-some years raising these kids, and now what are we doing? What's the next piece of this? Well, that's all part of it. You see, change happens, and we have to recognize and be aware of it and be ready for it. The climb is going to get rocky. I wish for all of us that the road would really be a nice, smooth one. You know, we would walk and follow Jesus, and it'd be just nice and easy. And I wish as we were walking along, he would just stand next to us as we're doing it. He would explain all the things that have happened, all the things that are going to happen, and it would be really easy, right? But the reality is, Jesus' road takes us into some really crazy places. It goes down valleys and up mountains. And it gets filled with plants, and it gets overgrown, and the winter comes in, and it gets slick. And as you're climbing mountains, anybody's ever done that, you suddenly find places where a landslide has occurred, and you got to figure out how to climb over. It gets kind of rocky, doesn't it? There are obstacles that always appear. We have to recognize that's the reality of life, period. But especially when we follow Christ, we really have to understand that the climb is going to get rocky. We also recognize the storm sweeping. Now, anybody who's ever gone fishing on a boat recognizes you have to pay attention to the weather, right? I've never sailed on the Great Lakes. I know Emery has. Emery, am I correct? You used to teach sailing, correct? Mm-hmm. And when you did that, you had to pay attention, especially on those waves, right? Mm-hmm. I've been on Glendo, and the waves get like 6-7 feet high, and the wind, and my grandfather just cared less anyway and just did whatever he was doing. But, but that's one thing. But being out on the Great Lakes, I'm sure those swells get up there 20, 30 feet sometimes, or higher. And when you're going out on those on the water at any time, you really got to pay attention to what the weather's like. When we go off and we want to spend a day up at Vitavu, or we want to go to Rocky Mountain National Forest or something, we got to pay attention to the weather, right? Because it doesn't make much sense to go climbing a mountain when there's a blizzard on its way. Well, that's the same thing about what's happening with us. Storms are going to happen. As we're walking along this path with Jesus, we have to recognize, we have to understand there's some danger signs here. That on this road, there will be some storms. It's inevitable, as in life. We dodged a great bullet the other day because the storm I thought we were going to get went to Montana, and I was told that they were like getting 2.5 feet. And I'm really glad that it didn't hit here because, you know, that would have messed everything up. But we recognize sometimes you dodge them, but most of the time they show up. Jesus' disciples were no different, right? They got in the boat figuring, all right, we're going to go to the other side of the lake. Jesus knows what he's doing. Jesus climbs up. He's a little tired, falls asleep, and here comes a storm. And it's rocking and it's rolling, and the boat's kind of going all over the place, and they're freaking out because here's Jesus asleep in the middle of the storm. Now, that's a cool thing about God. Storms are irrelevant to him. He sees them, but he sees them in the big picture, right? When we look at it, we see these storms, and sometimes they really are really small things. Sometimes they're just a sprinkle, but we see them, and the clouds are black, and we're already dealing with things, and we're trying to figure out how to do this, and here comes a storm, and we wig out. Here are these guys, they're saying, the scripture says they were in great danger. Well, the truth is, if you're with Jesus, what kind of danger are you going to be with? Even if the boat sinks, you're still with Jesus. The guy walks on water, raises dead people. I'm not going to worry too much. But, you know, we're still not sure if we trust this guy. We're still not sure about our faith. We're still not sure about how this whole thing's going to work out. They freak out, and they wake him up. And what does Jesus do? He gets out, and he rebukes the wind and the waves. You need to understand something about that. When Jesus does something like that, it's not like he just goes, and everything's nice and calm. If you actually look in the Greek and the Hebrew, Jesus walked out, and he says this word, be muzzled. Everything just goes, shoo. And that's what got their attention. He looked out like he's talking to a dog, right? Dog's barking and yapping and acting like a goofball because somebody knocked at the door. Robbers don't go through the front door. Relax. He's barking. What do you say? Shut up! That's exactly what the wind and waves did. When Jesus got up, he says, hey, enough. And that's what made them amazed. They were like, whoa. Who is this guy that even the wind and waves obey him? See, storms sweep in. Obstacles will occur. No matter what road you're on, no matter where you're going, obstacles are always going to appear in life, right? As we walk through and whatever it is we're doing, whatever path that Jesus has got us on, there's always things that get in the way. I know I can't tell you how many times I've made plans and said, this is the way I'm going, and Jesus goes, yeah, watch his rock roll right in the way of that, and let me explain the way you're really going. But I wanted to go that way. Yeah, but that's not the way I'm sending you, so you got to just deal with this rock. Or he might say, I know, but that rock is there so that you learn some things. But I don't want to deal with that rock. I get it, trust me. But you still got to deal with it. See, the reality is obstacles occur. And when these things happen, guess what, guys? Just like Jesus, after talking and preaching and doing all this, well, we're going to get tired. We're going to get tired. When we get tired, we get cranky. When we get cranky, we get kind of grouchy, right? And we start taking things out on us. Now, that's human nature. Have you ever been that? You know, your kids say something just, they're not even doing anything wrong, but you've got a headache, it's been a long day, you've dealt with 6 or 7 customers or whatever, patients or whatever it is you're dealing with, and all you want to do is take an aspirin, sit down, and sleep for 30 minutes, and all they want to do is, Mom, 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 Mom. Johnny won't let me play with the TV. Tina won't let me go outside. Mom, would you make her stay on her side of the bedroom? Whatever it is, and all you want to do is tell them to shut up for 5 minutes. We get tired. And the reality is, we're going to get tired. Even on this road, as we're following Jesus, there is no exception to this. There are things that are going to happen. It's not just going to be you come to Jesus, you follow him, he says, welcome home, my good and faithful servant, and life will be so beautiful for you for the rest of your, it's just sit back and enjoy. I'm going to take you on a tour of what life is really all about. And you're in there, and he says, over on this side we have Hollywood, and you can see where John Wayne lived, and that's not what it is. It's not a tour. He's taking us on a real journey. And we're going to get tired. We're going to have to deal with some things. So we have to recognize and understand how we're going to have to deal with these. So how do we understand obstacles? How do we deal with these storms? How do we recognize this? Well, there's a couple things we need to understand. First of all, and there's one of my college professors showed this to us in a class not too long ago. Says this: crises are common. Now, why do I say that? Because here's the reality of life. In life, each of us is either in the middle of a crisis, at the end of a crisis, or beginning a new crisis. Now, crisis doesn't mean a catastrophe, or maybe it does. But it does mean something is changing, something is happening, and it's designed to do some things. It's not going to be easy sailing. You know, it may be something as simple as the hot water heater just blew that yesterday morning, and now I got to deal with that. Or, you know, it might be something as dramatic as the car just exploded on the way to Denver.
Oh.
And I got to figure that out. Or I've lost my job. Or my father has passed away. I mean, crises are common, and we're constantly going through those. We have to recognize those as we walk along. That we really do have to understand this is going to happen. Crises are common, and it's necessary for growth. Again, using that whole idea of weightlifting, you know, the only way that you build muscle is to build resistance. And the stronger you get, the more resistance you need. When I was in high school, the gentleman who owns Rock on Wheels, his name's George Anidiotis, great guy. He lends us his lights at Christmas time, by the way. Does some great stuff. He and I did weightlifting together. And we actually ended up at the end of our senior year, had a competition. And for a while, we set a record. We were doing the leg sled. You know what the leg sled is? Where you're sitting on your back and you're pushing straight up. Okay, so you're doing vertical with your legs. We both topped out at 820 pounds vertically. Now I have a little bit of advantage because my legs don't have to go as far as his do. Several of the basketball players tried to point that out, and I said, so how does that work when you're closer to the basketball hoop than me? Is that cheating then for you? Is that, you know? But the reality was that all year long we kept building the resistance, building the resistance, building the resistance. When we did this final thing, neither one of us, by the way, wanted to go any further because we were both exhausted, and my legs hurt for 2 weeks straight because we were trying to do something we never attempted before. To do that, it took a lot of work. And to do that, we had to build a lot of resistance. So there were several days where we would be sitting on the floor pushing 500 pounds straight up in the air with our feet and our legs to build those kind of muscles. Well, guess what? Obstacles, storms, all of these things are necessary for growth. If we don't build our faith to continually fuel us, we don't go very far. And Jesus doesn't, you know, the interesting thing about our tanks, our spiritual tanks, it's not like a stationary tank. If I've got it filled, I'll go for 200 miles and then I'll have to fill it up again. No, here's the thing: our spiritual tanks inflate, and as we grow spiritually, so it takes a little bit more faith sometimes to fill it up. And why does it do that? Because it's stretching us, it's growing us. We have to, in order to get closer to God, in order to be able to face bigger and bigger obstacles, we have to continually build that faith. We have to continually grow. In fact, that's what it's designed for. It's designed to build faith. Jesus looks at his disciples here, and I love this part where he says, he looks out and he stands up and says, "Be muzzled." And then he turns around to his disciples and says, "Where is your faith?" Guys, you're in the boat with me. You know that I have a purpose here, that I'm doing some stuff. Are you really seriously worried that a storm is going to sink this boat and we're all going to drown? You know who I am. Or at least you say you know who I am. Where is your faith? Now, you know what the beauty about that is? Jesus was never mean about that to them. When we see that, sometimes we read that as, well, you're an idiot. Where was your faith? But that's not what God's saying. God, he's gentle when he says, where's your faith? Learn to trust me. I've led you this far. I've never let you down before. I've led you through some hard stuff. There's going to be some difficult things, but just trust me. Where is your faith? You see, it's designed to build faith and increase our spiritual muscles. Like our physical muscles, you need resistance to build, right? Well, guess what? Every time you build faith, every time you build spiritual muscles. And those spiritual muscles are going to be used next week for our last one as we talk about what you're supposed to do with some of this stuff. It's designed to build faith, increase our spiritual muscles, and also deepen our relationship with Christ. See, every time there was a storm that showed up, and it wasn't always just a regular storm, right? You know, once in a while we saw Jesus out there, and we see Jesus on the lake, and here comes a storm, and he tells the storm to shut up. Be quiet. Silence. And he turns to his disciples, and that was all so they could see, wow, this isn't just any normal guy that I'm following. Who is this guy? Where's your faith? The further they walked with him, the deeper their relationship became. You know, the one person out of all of this that I still love to this day is Peter. Peter was called the Rock, and I believe that for two reasons. One, when he got it, he got it. But boy, did it take some time to get it. He was called the Rock because his head was full of them too. I think I related to him. Because sometimes it takes a lot for me to get things and really understand it. But boy, when I understand it, when I get it, I get it. All of this is designed to deepen our relationship with Jesus. So how do we do that? How do we allow these storms? Because here's the truth. No matter what, you're not going to get away from them. Not one of us is. Because Jesus says, I have things for you to do. And sometimes he uses a pain that we have in our lives to help other people along the journey. Sometimes he uses it to grow us closer to God. I've told you in the past that as I attended a church planting seminar with Emory after I got to fly for the first time, and I'm in Ohio. You know, something amazing happened, because as a kid I didn't like life. And I adjectives, but those are probably getting too far into the other side of things. But it was really tough growing up. God, why did you make me this size? God, why did you do this way? Why'd you put me with this particular family? Because I didn't have a choice. I remember you saying, hey, Scott, as I get ready to drop you out of this cloud, left or right? I don't remember God saying that. There's a lot of anger and issues. I didn't get why all this happened. And I get this one chance as I'm sitting there crying, going, God, I turn it over to you. And he says, let me show you something. All of this stuff. And I get to see all of that stuff. I did this. I allowed that to happen. I didn't make that happen, but I allowed it to happen because it was going to put you into a place where you were going to understand that pain and lead others through it. Every single bit of it. I didn't want it to happen to you, but because of the way that things worked out, I allowed it to happen to you because I wanted it to grow you closer to me so you would rely on me and you would begin to understand that what was happening to you was for good, not evil. Now I get to do what I'm doing up here today. I get to talk to my awesome youth, and it's been 10 years now. That's just actually my to touch that many lives, to have them call me every once in a while, check up on me on Facebook, have them and I've even had this happen, where somebody on Facebook said, Pastor Scott, I want you to know, because of what you taught us in youth, I get it. I understand what love is now. Now that's a day when you just you want to take that and print it off and put it in your file of things for when the storms come. Because sometimes you need to pull those out and see all these, the attaboy things, because you need those. And that's what Jesus is all about. Let me show you the things that you've done. So how do we do this? How do we weather these storms? Because they're going to happen. Well, there's six pieces to this. First of all, pay attention. When you go on a journey, you pay attention to the things that are going around. You look around to see. You don't just keep your eyes on the road and keep following it, and never look up to see, hey, is there a mountain in front of me? I kind of like to know when Jesus is leading me, even if he is leading me over a cliff. I kind of like to know it's coming. Pay attention so you can be ready for it. Not every storm you can be ready for. We've seen it. We live in Wyoming. We know what weather's like, right? Sunny one minute, windy the next minute, snowing the next minute, and that's an average summer day. Truthfully, though, if you want to weather the storm, pay attention to what's happening around you. It's a lot easier to be solid and be ready for it when you're paying attention. Listen. Listen to the people around you. Listen to what's going on in your life, in the lives of the people that you love, in the life of your community, in the life of your nation. What's really funny is we keep looking, and I'll be honest, this political season that we're seeing right now is beyond, I've never quite seen anything quite like it, but guess what? 1960s. Similarities. And none of it happens in a vacuum, does it? If you listened, you saw things, you heard things coming. Jesus sometimes warns us, hey, just so you know, there's going to be some rocky times ahead. I got a mountain for you to climb. Now, the view is spectacular, but you're probably not going to love all of the climbing. Because there's some cliffs, and, it's going to be rough. Listen. When the storm comes, and they will come, take shelter in the Scriptures. I didn't used to put a lot of stock in memorizing Scripture. Now, I memorized some Scripture, and the more that I read the Bible, the more that I remember. Even if I don't always remember what the exact spot is, I know where it's coming from, and I know it's in there. And it's also really helpful when people misquote things, just so you know. But one of the single greatest things that I can tell you right now is when life really does start getting to a place you just don't know what to do, take shelter from the storm in the Scriptures, because every bit of Jesus' wisdom, every bit of what God is telling us to do is written right here. Where is your faith? Oh yeah, I'm supposed to have faith in you. God, I really hate this. Son, I really hate this too. I don't want you to go through this, but I love you. And I love you too much to rescue you completely out of it. My son went through that. He was flogged, and he was beaten, and he was spit on, and he was crucified. And if I had rescued him from that, I couldn't rescue you from this. Take shelter in the Scriptures. Remember who's in charge. If we've done the first two parts, which is first follow God and follow Jesus, second start building faith, well, guess what? That recognizes somebody else is in charge. It ain't me. And of all the things in life that I definitely know, there is a God, and I'm not him. But the first part is the most important. There is a God. He loves me, he cares about me, and he's with me no matter what I'm in. And no matter what the situation is, I know he's still in charge. No matter what's going on in our country, in our world, in our city, in my home, he's still in charge. Remember who's in charge. Allow faith then to help you grow. If you start doing these things, if you're paying attention, if you're listening to what's going on, if you're taking shelter in the Scriptures and allowing Jesus to speak through them to you and remembering he's in charge, then you can allow your faith to help you grow. You can step out and say, okay, God, I don't get this, but I'm trusting you. I don't understand why you're doing this, but I'm going to trust you. And that faith begins to grow in you, and you're able to take the next steps a heck of a lot easier. Mud sometimes is hard to walk through. But if you keep putting one foot in front of the other, knowing that God is leading you, it gets a heck of a lot easier. You've got to allow faith to build and help you grow. And this is one you're going to love. FDR said that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Do you know that's very true? You know, Jesus was trying to teach this all the way back then. As his disciples were sitting there in the boat, rocking and freaking out and thinking we're going to die, wake up Jesus, we're all going to drown. And Jesus looks up and he looks at the storm and says, be muzzled. He's trying to teach us the same thing. Laugh in the face of the storm. You can throw anything you want at me. You can let the wind and the waves hurl at me. But you know what? Jesus is my rock. He's the guy that I'm following. And at the end of the day, whether I drown or not, he's still got me. So feel free to bring it on. It's amazing what happens to storms in our lives when you do that. When you finally said, it's not mine. I'm not dealing with this. I'm letting God deal with it. Now, it doesn't mean that, that God is always going to supernaturally say, Lord, and everything's going to turn out right. We recognize that just from our hymns and our scriptures. Sometimes we do that and it still just falls apart. But even when that happens, Jesus still has it. God still got it under control. Because he sees the big picture. He looks at people's lives and says, you know what? Because of the way this one lived, this one will live even a greater life. We look at Job and all the things that he dealt with, and he didn't even do anything wrong. If you look at his life, he was a good man. He was doing he was righteous. He was in tune with God. And here comes Satan going, I'm going to show you what's going to happen when we do this. God says, have at it. Now, Job hated his life, and he really didn't wish he was born, but he never cursed God. It's not God's fault this is happening, and I still trust in God. And at the end of the testing, when God finally told Satan, you're done, dude, out. Satan didn't have any choice, and things changed. For Peter, he denied Christ 3 times, and he was mortified. He could not believe that Jesus was right, and he couldn't believe he did it. And after Jesus' resurrection, when he's out there just trying to figure out what life's really all about, trying to figure out, okay, what do I do next? And he's on this boat with his best friends fishing, and some goofball from the bank tells him to throw his nets on the other side. Yeah, like this side of the boat's any different than this side of the boat? Give me a break. Just try it. Throw it over. He didn't even hesitate. That's Jesus. He jumps out of the boat and swims the shore. Embraces Jesus. I'm never letting you go. Jesus spends 3 different times saying, Peter, do you love me? Yes, I love you. Peter, do you love me? Peter, do you love me? Jesus, I love you more than anything. Well, guess what? I love you so much that you are going to be the one I'm building this church on, and it's going to be a rocky road, but you trust me. From that moment on, Peter trusted him no matter what, even unto his death. Because of the faith we're building, when we're on this road, when the storms of life come, that faith allows us to build something within us that lasts at these storms. Doesn't mean we're not going to cry. Doesn't mean we're not going to have hard times. But it does mean we now have a supernatural ability to look at it for what it is. And we can say the same thing that Jesus said in the wilderness. Get out of here, Satan. I'm not doing that. And here's the reasons why. Because Jesus said, be muzzled. And I'm following anybody who has the power to over the wind and the waves. So here's the final question. Are you ready for the road ahead? The road that we're walking isn't just an easy road. It's always filled with some challenges, and it's always filled with changes. It's filled with some hard stuff, but it's filled with some beautiful stuff too. Here in a few weeks, we're gonna see some more people who have already entered the kingdom, and they're gonna pronounce that and be baptized. Isn't that awesome? That's a celebration of what's going on. It's a mountaintop experience. We're gonna be out there. Look what God has done. He's changed lives again. Take that, Satan. Are you ready for the road? I know that it's tough, and I don't want to lie. It will be tough. Some of us are going to get persecuted. Some of us may even get prosecuted. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know one thing. No matter what the storm is, no matter what the obstacle is, no matter what's in front of us, Jesus is always beside us. And he is not making us do it alone. If you're out on the water with him, recognize the boat can toss and turn all at once. But if Jesus is there with you, you can just relax. Because it's kind of like one of those little poodle dogs who yaps loud but really has no body. Are you ready for the road ahead?